Hey folks, and welcome to the latest installment of Dave's Impressions. This time around, Persona 5. These impressions were taken from playing the game for around 11 hours, and that was just the intro to the damn game. JRPGs, am I right? There was a joke going around when Persona 5 came out that if you were going to pork the user interface of any game, it'd be Persona 5. Spending a couple of hours with it, it's easy to see why. Heck, it's easy to see why during the before menu intro. Every menu interface, the transitions between menus, the loading screens, and just the general design of the characters and monsters. It's all lovely. It exudes not just a sense of style, but a confidence in that style as well. The game knows it's brash and over the top, and it revels in it. I'm playing the PS3 version, and my only disappointment in not getting to play this on the PS4, aside from potentially faster load times, is how much sharper and vibrant the game would look. My only frame of reference for the Persona series is that I completed Persona 4 back on the PS2. It's my second favorite JRPG of the 2000s. Persona 5 shares a lot of its structure. The main character is exposed to the Velvet Room in Igor after a little while spent in a new town, and it takes a few hours for the game to open up into the life simulator gameplay the series has become known for. The player chooses how to spend their time each day, strengthening friendships with characters, improving their personal attributes, or diving into a dungeon and slaying monsters in order to help someone out. Persona 5 stakes give the impression that they will eventually spiral into a fate of the world scenario, which is different from Persona 4's more contained series of events. In Persona 5, the player is a thief, a phantom thief. Each dungeon is created through the twisted desires of someone in the game world. Stealing their treasure, what they covet most, will hopefully mend their heart and help them see how their negative behavior has affected others. But even if it ends up harming them, Joker and his friends are stopping these people from continuing their abuse. For example, the first dungeon is the heart of Kamoshida, the head volleyball coach of the high school the main character is attending. He is a tyrant, physically and mentally abusing those under his care, and even sexually assaulting female students. The game does a great job in making the player despise him, and I wonder if all the targets of the Phantom Thieves will be this vile. A concern during Persona 4 was that unless one was following a very strict walkthrough which often made the game unenjoyable to play, it's likely the player would not be able to make the most of their time and max out the confident bars with all the main character's friends. To me, these character stories were one of the most enjoyable aspects of Persona 4, and 5 is no different. Strengthening the bonds between friends gives tangible benefits in combat and Persona Fusion, but it's the characters themselves and helping them to overcome their challenges that was the real reward. Persona 5 has a Thieves Network, where during any segment of the day you can go online and see how the majority of players spent their time. This is no guarantee that a player will be able to have a perfect run-through, but I feel less worried about missing out with the inclusion of this feature. Often I would look at the network and say to myself, "Oh cool, I didn't know that was an option. I'm going to try that out." This fear of missing out in regards to the life sim aspect of the game didn't apply to other areas, and I think that's because Persona 5 is great at easing the player into everything the game has to offer. For instance, early on in the first dungeon, I worried about experience and money because of how the player acquires new personas by talking the enemies down in a fight. This limits the experience and cash you would normally get by defeating them. I saw the prices of medicine, armor, weapons, and worried that I would not be able to afford everything I needed. Then, as I made my way through the dungeon, I started stealing hidden treasure. I started using the all-out attack option instead of shaking an enemy down for money or an item, and by the boss, my team was decked out quite nicely, was at an adequate level, and I had plenty of money to spare. I also like how it seems that there's less push to get through a dungeon as quickly as possible. I took my time, often alternating between improving my confident links and making my way to the next safe room. I beat the boss with about a week left before the deadline. But I do have to say the first dungeon still felt drawn out. I wonder if this was because of the longer load times, but I can see why the game averages at a completion time of 105 hours if the first dungeon felt that long. That's not including the grinding I imagine will have to be done to make sure one is ready to face each new boss, or to acquire the right personas for the job. I absolutely loved the first boss. It had a great design, like everything else, but what I really liked was the stages of it. When things weren't going as well as they should be, my team put together a plan B, and I had to adapt my strategy as that plan was being carried out. Once it was successful, the boss was demoralized and each attack took hundreds of health off. A very satisfying end to the fight, especially with how the game had built Yamashita up as a foe needing to be vanquished. I ended my playthrough with the characters forming the Phantom Thieves. There's been hints of a great societal sickness, and just the core concept of traveling into people's hearts and stealing their desires in order to cure them is something I can't wait to see explored further. From my limited time with the game, it looks like leveling up stats is going to be more important here than it was in Persona 4. For example, I wasn't able to continue building a relationship with Dr. Takemi because some of my stats were too low. What I loved about Persona 4 is still here and is as enjoyable as ever. I love building relationships with people and becoming closer to them and how that strengthens the player. How along with the Phantom Thieves, this gives people the hope and support they need. I love how overtly positive the core experience of these games are, and I look forward to continuing my playthrough in the future. Thanks for watching. So, should you play Persona 5? Well, if you enjoyed the previous entries in the series, especially 3 and after when they introduced the life sim aspect, if you like Japanese role-playing games in general, if the idea of the Phantom Thieves interests you, or if you just appreciate a game with a lot of visual flair, I think you'll really enjoy what Persona 5 has to offer. On the other hand, if you're not a big fan of JRPGs, or if you don't like JRPGs that have turn-based combat, if you only like real-time combat, if you're not big on stories in your games, or if, on the other hand, you think the prospect of spending a lot of extra time grinding in dungeons for money and experience doesn't sound like fun, or if just the length of the game itself at 105 hours is too much of an investment for you, you probably should look elsewhere. As always, I'd love to hear what you thought of Persona 5 and this video down in the comments. If you'd like to help the channel and show me some love, please like the video, please share it on your favorite social media sites, and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, I hope you're all having a wonderful day.